Okay. Again, David spares Saul. So here we go. What would it take to rouse you from deep sleep? We're just talking about sleep. So
Yeah.
what is the most embarrassing or damaging thing you have managed to sleep through? I'll tell you one thing, and I don't know whether it work anymore, but sometimes back when the kids were little, in the middle of the night, you wake up and there's somebody, you feel like somebody's just staring at you or something, and you look and the kid's right at the side of your bed, but up by your head, just looking at you, not doing anything. So, and that did kind of remind me that during thunderstorms, we'd have all four of the kids would be in our bedroom. Some on the floor, some in bed with us.
Those are the days. Yeah, I'm a sleepwalker, so I've done some crazy stuff.
Oh gosh.
That's for sure.
I had a
Wow.
college roommate that did that too. So we did bunk beds and I stayed up out of the way. He'd get up out of bed and start running around the room and doing stuff. And he actually, a couple of times I had to bring him back in the room because he left.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
he had a bad case.
I have
I
a
need to tell you
great.
some stories.
Yeah, well, this goes along with yours, Rick. I was staying at a hotel. Debbie and I were at a hotel in Des Moines, Iowa. Never forget this. And about 3 in the morning, there's banging on my door, and this guy is saying, "Helen, let me in, Helen, let me in." I'm going, What is he doing? And Debbie said, "What are you going to do?" I said, "Well, I'm not going to open up the door because he's going to see me and he's think I'm in here with Helen."
Yeah,
So,
right.
so I called down front, and he was out there in his boxer shorts. And so I called down, and I saw these guys come up, and they took him down the hall. So the next morning, I checked out. I said, "Hey, I got to ask you." I said, "What was the deal with the guy last night?" He said, "Well, he sleepwalks, and he got outside his room, and the door locked, and he couldn't get back in, and he thought your door was his door."
Oh my
And
gosh.
he was very apologetic. I said, "Oh, well, okay." So I'm glad I didn't open it up though, because I was waiting for him to say I'd open up the door and say, "What are you doing with Helen?"
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
We were in a hotel once when the fire alarm went off, and at the time we only had Ryan. So 2 o'clock in the morning, we got a cart downstairs, go outside, for about an hour and a half. At about 3 in the
Wow.
morning, waiting for the fire department to come through and walk the hotel. That was not fun.
No.
Oh yeah,
Ugh.
yeah.
Especially if it's about 10 degrees outside.
Yeah, it wasn't.
Yeah.
Thankfully, it wasn't the winter.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, I did have that happen in the winter, and I threw on my top coat, had nothing but boxer shorts on, and t-shirt, went down with my bare legs. I looked like one of the guy was going to show everybody off down in the lobby as we
Flasher.
were
A
down.
flasher.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and it was freezing but cold, and it was a false alarm.
Yeah.
At least you weren't yelling, Helen, Helen.
Yeah. Where's Helen?
Yeah. All right. What are the duties of the bodyguards of famous and powerful people?
Protection.
Yep.
All right, Rick. How does it feel to win an argument?
Ask Eileen.
Depends on who it's with.
Yeah.
If you win an argument with your wife, you really never won it.
Right.
No, that's still, yeah. All right. Okay, Rick.
All right, here we go. This is the last meeting between the competing anointed ones, the last time Saul and David will see each other. Saul continues his pursuit of David, taking once again a large contingent of troops into the southern desert of Judah, to find and kill David. With the miraculous intervention of Yahweh, David is able to humiliate the king and his commanding general. The encounter ends with Saul's confession of guilt, though he falls short of promising to let David live. As we noted in chapter 24, this passage has much in common with that chapter. Following features seem parallel. Saul receives a report concerning David's whereabouts. He pursues David with 3,000 chosen men. David finds himself with an opportunity to kill Saul and end the conflict. Those around him urge him to perform the deed or allow him to do it. David refuses to kill Saul because of his profound respect for the anointed of Yahweh. The episode ends with a dialogue involving Saul and David, with Saul admitting his guilt.
Okay, thanks, Rick. All right, Steve.
Then the Ziphites came to Saul at Gibeah, saying, David is hiding on the hill of Hachilah, opposite Jeshimon. So Saul, accompanied by 3,000 of the choice men of Israel, went to the wilderness of Ziph to search for David there. Saul camped beside the road at the hill of Hachilah, opposite Jeshimon. David was living in the wilderness and discovered Saul had come there after him. So David sent out spies and knew for certain that Saul had come. Immediately David went to the place where Saul had camped. He saw the place where Saul and Abner, son of Ner, the general of his army, were lying down. Saul was lying inside the inner circle of the camp, with the troops camped around him. Then David asked Ahimelech the Hittite and Joab's brother Abishai, son of Zeruiah, who will go with me into the camp to Saul? I'll go with you, answered Abishai. That night David and Abishai came to the troops, and Saul was lying there asleep in the inner circle of the camp, with his spear stuck in the ground by his head. Abner and the troops were lying around him. Then Abishai, son of David, Today God has handed your enemy over to you. Let me thrust the spear through him into the ground just once. I won't have to strike him twice. But David said to Abishai, Don't destroy him, for who can lift a hand against the Lord's anointed and be blameless? David added, As the Lord lives, the Lord will certainly strike him down. Either his day will come and he will die, or he will go into battle and perish. However, because of the Lord, I will never lift my hand against the Lord's anointed. Instead, take your spear and the water jug by his head, and let's go. So David took the spear and the water jug by Saul's head, and they went their way. No one saw them, no one knew, and no one woke up. They all remained asleep because a deep sleep from the Lord came over them. Here we go, decreasing font. David crossed to the other side and stood on top of the mountain at a distance. There was a considerable space between them. Then David shouted to the troops and to Abner, son of Ner, Aren't you going to answer, Abner? Who are you who calls the king? Abner asked. David called to Abner, You're a man, aren't you? Who in Israel is your equal? So why didn't you protect your lord the king when one of the people came to destroy him? What you have done is not good. As the Lord lives, all of you deserve to die, since you didn't protect your Lord, the Lord's anointed. Now look around. Where are the king's spear and water jug that were by his head? Saul recognized David's voice and asked, Is that your voice, my son David? It is my voice, my lord and king, David said. Then he continued, Why is my lord pursuing his servant? What have I done? What evil is in my hand? Now may my lord, the king, please hear the words of his servant. If it is the Lord who has incited you against me, then may he accept an offering. But if it is the people, may they be cursed in the presence of the Lord. For today they have driven me away from sharing in the inheritance of the Lord, saying, Go and worship other gods. So don't let my blood fall to the ground far from the Lord's presence. For the king of Israel has come out to search for a flea, like one who pursues a partridge in the mountains. Saul responded, I have sinned. Come back, my son David. I will never harm you again, because today you considered my precious life. I have been a fool. I have committed a grave error. David answered, Here is the king's spear. Have one of the young men come over and get it. May the Lord repay every man for his righteousness and his loyalty. I wasn't waiting to lift my hand against the Lord's anointed, even though the Lord handed you over to me today. Just as I considered your life valuable today, so may the Lord consider my life valuable and rescue me from all trouble. Saul said to him, You are blessed, my son David. You will certainly do great things, and you will also prevail. Then David went on his way, and Saul returned home.
Okay, any initial comments or thoughts? Okay,
Saul never remembers what he said the last time.
no, it's-
Short memory.
Yeah.
so here they are, they're still kind of wandering around in this area, the wilderness of Ziph. And I don't know why he keeps going back there, because you recall the Ziphites are the ones that keep telling Saul, David's here. So, in fact, that's the first question I have, I think. Ziphites again are spying for Saul. Do you think there was a reward, or was it just to get favor with the king?
Probably both, right?
Yeah, probably. I don't know whether he had a bounty and had wanted posters up. Do you think David, for a moment during this instance, might have been thinking, well, I did not kill Saul the last time he was vulnerable, and here he is again. Am I supposed to kill him? I don't know. Do you even think that crossed David's mind when they were there in the camp?
It probably did.
Yeah, because I wonder what.
It definitely crossed his right-hand man's.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah, it's people. It did. So
Mhm.
It's like, how many times are we going to put up with this? Obviously, you're supposed to kill him.
yeah, yeah, exactly. So from the last chapter, do you think David learned anything from the incident with Nabal? If so, what? Anybody remember last week when David was going to, they'd been in the area of Ziph around Carmel, and they kind of protected Nabal's people, shepherds. He had 3,000 head of sheep. And then when they came into the town or something with during the celebration of the shearing and the harvest, Nabal wouldn't give him anything.
Right.
And then you remember David was going to, well, we're going to kill every man in that area. And then what happened to Nabal after that? Anybody remember? Well, Abigail came out and gave them food.
Yeah, he died. He was
Yeah.
struck dead.
Yeah. So,
God took care of him.
yeah. So again,
That was after a night of drinking.
yeah. Yeah, it was. So
It's early in the Old Testament, but I think that a lot of this shows that, when we give mercy to our enemies, which David continues to do. I mean, this guy obviously Saul is his enemy, but he continues to give him mercy and give him forgiveness. And true justice comes from God alone. And this shows in the end, even with Nabal, that's true.
Yeah.
Justice comes from God.
So do you find it amazing that Abishai, it was David's nephew, and David were able to sneak into the center of camp where Saul was sleeping, then have a whispered argument while standing above Saul, actually, about killing Saul, and take his spear and water jug and not waking anyone up? Did they have?
They knew sign language.
Yeah.
Yeah. Did Abishai go, "I'm gonna kill
Yeah. Those facial, you've seen them from your wife. The facial remarks, they don't say a word.
him?" Yeah.
Oh, I'm in
yeah.
trouble.
Yeah. Yeah. So why did David refuse to harm Saul?
Because he's the anointed one.
Yeah. Anything else? There's actually 3 things.
Mm.
It's the Lord's. It's in the Lord's hand, right? Is that
Right.
kind of what you're talking about?
Yeah. And then because of God, his relationship with God. So, all right. Oh, so what three reasons did David share with that? Those we just went over those.
Mhm.
So what do the spear and jug of water symbolize?
I think it was just to prove that he was there, right?
Yeah, but there, yeah, yes,
Death and life.
death and life. Yeah, and the spear was actually, yeah, that's true. The water, and I think the spear. The commentators were saying more it represented Saul's power.
Mm.
So, and actually, it's the spear that he threw at David twice, trying to kill him. How would you characterize this event and of David and Abishai taking the spear and jug of water? Would you say it was a miracle or just extreme stealth on their part?
I'd say it's a miracle because it said the deep sleep from the Lord came over them.
Yeah, yeah. Okay. What do you think of David's strategy attacking Abner, the commander of Saul's army, instead of calling out to Saul directly?
Is Abner the one that killed all the priests, or is that somebody else? That was a different person, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
But any ideas on that?
Well, why do you have him first in command and you're trying to kill me? I could provide you more protection than even your most trusted commander.
Yeah.
Because twice I could have killed you and I didn't.
Yeah, is this guy really protecting you or not?
Yeah. And I think maybe he wanted to still have a little bit of respect for Saul, didn't want to disrespect him, I guess. And so he went after his
Bodyguard.
bodyguard, yeah. So what things about Abner did David call into question? And actually they're kind of underlined, but you may not pick up on the three things. So aren't you a man? I mean, aren't you supposed to protect him? And nobody in Israel is your equal. You're the head guy. You're the best in combat. And why didn't you protect your Lord King when people came to destroy him? So he just kind of questioned his manhood, questioned his whether he was actually strong enough, and his loyalty. So, in your own words or interpretation, what does David list while trying for reconciliation? You can see this. Well, I'll read it and then you tell me what you take from it. It is my voice, my Lord and King, David said. Then he continued, why is my Lord pursuing his servant? What have I done? What is evil in my hand? Now may the Lord the King please hear these words of his servant. If it is the Lord who has incited you against me, then may he accept an offering. But if it is the people, may they be cursed in the presence of the Lord. For today they have driven me away from sharing in the inheritance of the Lord, saying, go and worship other gods. So don't let my blood fall to the ground far from the Lord's presence, for the King of Israel has come to search for a flea like one who pursues a partridge in the mountains. So David's also kind of pointing out here, and a couple of commentators mentioned on this, is that he wasn't able to even go and worship at the temple or the tabernacle He's being forced into land where other people worship other gods. So that's kind of what that's saying, that depriving David of his chance to go to church, if you will. So what promise did Saul make about further harming David? And do you think Saul is sincere this time?
Right.
Yeah, I have sinned, come back, my son. I will never harm you again because today you considered my life precious. I have been a fool. I committed a grave error.
Saul's
that-
ego always in this whole thing, it gets in the way. I mean, how many times have you heard people say, "Yeah, I'll never do that again," or but their ego gets involved again. I mean, he's the king. He's the king. He's not looking to God. He's the king. He can do whatever he wants, and that's how he feels.
Yeah,
So, again, no, he might say it and even mean it, but he doesn't mean it.
He's already proven that.
yeah.
Yeah.
And actually, this is the spoiler alert. This is the last time Saul and David talk. So imagine David had given in to each temptation. What kind of king would he have been by the time he ruled over Israel?
Same as Saul, probably.
Yeah. Yeah. As we read through these recent chapters, what confirmation do you see that David truly was a man after God's own heart? Or do you see?
Forgiveness.
Mm-hmm.
Does it
Saul
say
Saul never looked to God. He always depended on his own self.
Yeah.
David always looked to God.
Does it say anywhere that Saul did anything to Abner for not protecting him?
I was wondering about that too.
Yeah, not in this chapter, and I don't think.
Or even the guards. There should have been other guards in the camp, right? That
Yeah.
should have been, keeping people from sneaking in.
Yeah,
Right. You wonder if there wasn't some punishment or death or something.
yeah, no, in the military, you'd be court-martialed.
Right.
To your post. So,
Right.
He's
and I'm
peeling
sure that,
potatoes.
yeah. Well, even if you look at, well, the Romans, this is way before the Romans, but
Mhm.
Roman soldiers, if the prisoner escaped, and they kind of had to pay the penalty for what that
Right.
prisoner. So,
Yikes.
yeah.
Mm.
So,
It's just like those guys that were guarding the tomb when Jesus left. Wonder what happened to them.
yeah,
Yeah.
I guess I would have just left.
Yeah.
Okay, I don't know what these questions here. So what temptations do we face when life seems particularly difficult or unfair or to be going wrong?
Every day, I think we have our own temptations with our own challenges, and we play this game of whose fault it is, and we look to the human side more than we turn it over. We open ourselves up to God and turn ourselves over to God, rather than doing the blame game.
Yeah,
Or doubting,
yeah,
Everything that happens to us, we try to look for stuff. Who's at fault?
Mhm.
Why is it happening to me? Who can I blame? And who can I, attack that will take care of this? I mean, I could go on and on, but really what God wants you to do is turn it over to him.
yeah. Let God vindicate you when you enter a conflict, but then sometimes timing's not what we would want.
God wants you to know, and he does continually do this daily, that you are dependent upon him. And he wants you to show that.
Hi,
So again,
Chuck's alarm went off.
Yeah, I did. Chuck got up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
where in life do you need to be comforted, reminded the Lord rewards righteousness and faithfulness, and so a lot of time, well, faithfulness is being tested when God delays, I think. The question that continues to come up with David's story, failing to see God act on your behalf. Are you tempted to take matters into your own hands, and in what area? Kind of relates to question one too, much the same thing, so.
And I kept thinking all the way through this is that, God obviously had a plan. And we know, I mean, we've read the rest of this story, but if David knows that God has a plan, he's got to fit within that plan, and whatever God wants is what's going to happen. So it's God's plan, the way it all ended.
Yeah, sometimes it's frustrating when we don't know what the plan is, what the end game is, what's after.
That's where our faith comes in.
Yeah,
Well, you think about those 3,000 soldiers who witnessed what should have been a death
Yeah.
and witnessed forgiveness instead.
yeah.
So that had an impact on those soldiers, you would think.
Yeah,
Oh,
you
yeah.
would think so. Oh, I guess I didn't, yeah, number of different things here. So, again, both, Gary Hamrick, again, was hammering on this quite a bit. Respect is to be shown to leaders, whether rulers of nation, ministers of the gospel, supervisors of work, officials of social organization, clubs, teachers, or other position leaders are to be honored. If leaders corrupt, his corruption is to be opposed, but the office of the leader must be honored. And for some of this, just my comment, this is really difficult when the actions and speech of the leaders differ from our views and beliefs. But in Romans, it says, let every person be loyally subject to the governing civil authorities, for there is no authority except from God, by his permission, by his sanction, and those that exist do so by God's appointment. And again, reading these, I had some problems, but by me, kings reign and rulers decree what is just, which doesn't always seem to be the case. So these are just two verses of the many in the Bible that imply rulers are there by God's will. However, it's hard to show respect for the individual when they push agendas and law contrary to God's laws. Do you have any thoughts on any of this?
Yeah, I'm happy we weren't born during the Romans' reign over the Israelites. How many years was that? 400 years?
That's the Egyptian, maybe the Romans too. So
Or Egypt? Yeah, in Egypt. Yeah,
Egypt, yeah. Romans was even longer.
yeah. So
Yeah.
that's a long time for being persecuted.
yeah. Yeah, so how do you feel about applying these today with the, probably some of the rulers here in our country that we've had, or leaders?
I think there's a great example of that, and it goes along with your email that I got, I think, yesterday with the prophecy. You have a young lady that forgives the gentleman that supposedly, they question now, some people, but the one that assassinated Charlie Kirk, to a president who said, I hate this guy and I don't get rid of these people. And so you got two different conversations going on right here, but all in all, it's God's plan. And we're very clear, he's very clear, God is, on what he would like to see us do in our lives. And then even with that, you have rulers that say they are Christian and they abide by God, they believe in God, but yet there comes to these things like that where say, no, I'm not going that far. I hate these people.
Yeah. Yeah, that's quite a contrast, I guess.
Mhm.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. When you sent that to me and I listened to it all, I went, wow, that's really coming clear
Mhm.
as to what God's plan is.
So, and from the question that we had earlier, David questioned Abner's manhood, his position in Israel, and his irresponsibility and neglect of his duty. So Abner neglected his duty of protecting the king. He had been unfaithful, giving only half-hearted service to Saul, where he had allowed David and Abishai to sneak into the camp and become a threat to the king. And again, maybe it wasn't his fault because God intervened, and there was evidence, the spear in the water jug. This is a striking lesson for us on neglect, unfaithfulness, and half-hearted service. So far too many of us are neglectful, serving only half-heartedly. How many of us give only half-hearted service or are unfaithful to our commitments to our spouses, to our children, to our employment, to our government, to our friends and neighbors, to the Lord and his church? Think of the parable of the talents. And in Luke it says, every servant who knows full well what pleases his masters, yet who does not make himself ready and refuses to put his master's will to action will be punished with many blows. So always, as I'm going through some background material, it's always interesting to me on the commentaries on the different points they pick up that they want to make. So I thought, I guess if somebody preparing a sermon on this passage, I would have never focused on Abner's neglect. So anyway, then also God wants people reconciled, living together in peace, and conflict, fighting, violence, and war are not of God. God never intended people to be attacking, assaulting, maiming, and killing one another. Neither should we be verbally fighting, bickering, complaining, murmuring, squabbling, or causing all kinds of dissension and division. How blessed you are when you make peace, for then you will be recognized as the true child of God. So one of the major laws of life is the law of sowing and reaping. And this was another thing I guess I wouldn't have initially gotten out of this passage. If a farmer sows good seed on fertile soil, he will reap a good harvest. If a laborer sows responsible, diligent work, he will be productive. And if an employer sows just wages and good working relationships, the company will reap increased production. And then I was thinking, let me see it. From Beg or anything. Yeah, like I said, Hamrick kind of focused on this, showing respect for leaders. Show respect for the position, not necessarily the leaders. And then Beg was talking about ask about, did David learn anything from the incident at Nabal? And he kind of focused on diplomacy. And I think, yeah, Meg was also going on that, we think maybe as we read through this, that David is kind of the hero of the story, but he was pointing out that that's always God is always the hero of the story. It's the grace of God. And pointed again that Jesus did not seek revenge, that he always looked for grace. So, and then this is a takeaway card from 2015. Oh, I also mentioned I was looking at when I was watching the Alistair Begg go over these chapters. Like a couple of weeks ago, all of a sudden when they panned out into the crowd for his Wednesday night service, there was nobody there. And then I got to look in more detail, and part of his topics must have been in 2020 during COVID,
Hmm.
because I mean, several weeks ago, when going through the Samuel, his Wednesday night lessons, that's usually when Alistair Begg's going through these chapter studies. It panned back a little bit and show the crowd in their auditorium, but then the last couple of weeks they panned out, and there's actually nobody in the big auditorium there. So I finally figured it out after looking at the dates of when those YouTube things showed up. So
If you go to, you probably know this, but if you go to Truth for Life, he has a podcast, and if you sign up for it, I hear 7 sermons a week from Alistair Begg, because when I walk the dog, I turn them on. They're all around 27 to 30 minutes long. So I try to time my walk at about 30 minutes. So he's finishing up when I get back. So you'll have a new sermon every single morning. It'll have a little green dot by it, so you'll know that it's brand new.
well, I'll check that out.
Yeah. Truth for Life. That's his
Yeah,
organization.
that's where most the YouTube things always make that reference at the beginning.
Yeah.
Is there an app for him, or is it just on the internet?
No, there's a Truth for Life app. It's on my
App.
phone.
Okay.
Yeah. So David was given a second opportunity to kill Saul. I think many of us would be thinking maybe God wanted me to kill Saul and might have thought he wasn't clear in the message. So David's trust in God was vividly demonstrated in his restraint. So too was his determination to do right, no matter how Saul provoked him. A normal person would have changed their ways after their life was spared by a supposed enemy, yet Saul did not. David's respect for God's appointed is contrasted with Saul's lack of gratitude when shown undeserved mercy. Okay, so any other comments on the passage? We haven't seen Greg for a couple weeks. Anybody know what's going on there?
Yeah, he's fine. I don't think yeah, he said he probably wasn't going to be here this morning because he hasn't got much sleep this week.
Okay, anything going on or?
No, just traveling. They had gone. He had an aunt that went into hospice. So last Thursday he drove to Chicago to take Ed Johnson's daughter to the airport. Then he went out western suburbs to visit a friend. Then he went down to Springfield to see his aunt in hospice. He got out of there at 8, which is 9 o'clock our time. Then he drove home and he got into bed at 2:30 in the morning, or 3:30 in the morning. And he contemplated staying up or going to bed.
Well,
So he's still trying to recover.
He could have talked to Gary.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm always awake.
Yeah.
No, we
It's
were out
true.
with them last night. We worked at Habitat Home and then went to dinner. So
Okay, well, good. All right, so we don't know any update on Braden.
probably need to stop recording, right?
Oh, wow. I
Sorry.
forgot.
Thank goodness we have one with a memory here.
Yeah. Well, we
The
haven't
odds,
said
are
anything
the
yet.
odds are with us. At least 1 out of 8 or 9 each week.
Yeah.
Well, we hadn't said anything yet, but boy, it was coming with me. You telling